Hey guys, tonight we're setting sail, but not in the way you're used to. Picture this, you're standing barefoot on a crescent of warm sand, the stars still faintly visible as dawn cracks open the sky with soft pinks and sleepy blues. There's no GPS chirping in your pocket, no compass needles swinging politely. Just you, a carved wooden canoe, a few supplies lashed tight, and a brain packed full of ancient, whispering knowledge passed down through generations. You squint at the horizon, where the sea melts into mist. Out there lies another island, you hope. Maybe. Probably. You'll find it using nothing but the signs around you, the cloud shapes, the flight patterns of restless seabirds, the currents tugging at your calloused fingertips. If you're wrong, well, you probably won't survive this. Polynesian navigation wasn't for the faint-hearted. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is, bonus points if you're curled up in a hammock somewhere. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hoist the woven sail, feeling the low creak of wood against wood, and push off. The canoe rocks once, uncertain, then steadies. You squint again at the clouds ahead, low and oddly flat. In your training, you learn that low-lying clouds often gather over islands. They're not the lazy, high-flung cirrus or the brooding thunderheads. These are squat, wide, and heavy with secrets. There's a shimmer across the horizon, a place where the sky's brightness warps slightly, the cloud reflections on water betraying shallow reefs or atolls. To the untrained, it's just sky and sea. To you, it's a billboard screaming, land, this way. Historians still argue whether Polynesian navigators systematically mapped cloud types or simply memorized examples from countless voyages. Either way, you lean into that wisdom, trusting your own reading of the sky's subtle grammar. The wind is a whisper against your face, and the air is heavy with salt and possibility. You glance up, checking again the angle of the clouds. They're tilting slightly, like they're being sucked towards something unseen. It feels right. It feels familiar. Your arms flex as you adjust the sail, muscles moving almost without conscious thought. The canoe slides forward, water chattering against the hull in little hiccups and gurgles. You sit back and let the boat take you, steering less with brute force and more with subtle nudges, a shift of weight, a tug on a rope. Like steering a thought more than a vessel. By mid-morning, the clouds have shifted a little, but you're not worried. They're still there, still low and thick. You sip fresh water from a gourd and watch a single seabird wheel lazily overhead. You'll pay more attention to its path later. Right now, it's too early for the real show. Your eyes flick to the horizon again, and you spot another clue, a tiny, almost imperceptible change in the water's color. A faint silver sheen, a different texture on the surface where the currents meet. It's a long-lost cousin of the wind lines and ruffled ripples you learned to read back home. Some sailors swear they can smell land before they see it, the way the breeze shifts and carries the sense of earth and vegetation. Others, more fringe-minded, claim the clouds themselves whisper to experienced navigators, a concept as romantic as it is unprovable. But for now, you watch, you listen, and most importantly, you wait. You're not rushing this. The sea has its own clock, and Polynesian sailors, the wayfinders, learned long ago to sync their hearts to it. Rushing only gets you dead quicker. Your stomach rumbles, but you ignore it. Hunger is just another wave, another swell to ride out. You focus instead on the rhythm of the sea, the slow, breathing pulse beneath you, carrying you toward a destination you can't yet see but feel is there. The canoe hums gently under you, a sound older than memory, a song of wood and water. The clouds thicken ahead, low and insistent, and you smile to yourself, a small curve of the lips that only another sailor would understand. You don't know exactly where you're going, not in the way modern minds understand coordinates and charts. You just know you're on the right path. And really, that's the only kind of map that matters out here. You tilt your head back and squint at the clouds again. They haven't budged much, still heavy, still thick, hanging like low promises over the horizon. You lean on the paddle, letting the canoe drift for a moment while you study them. There's a trick your grandfather taught you. Focus not on the color of the clouds but on their shape. Clouds over open ocean sprawl and stretch, lazy and thin. But clouds over land gather themselves up, wider at the base, flatter, like they're resting on something solid. Today's clouds have that look, like someone sliced the bottoms off with a sharp knife and left them hovering, waiting for you to notice. Historians still argue whether early Polynesian navigators learned this skill from careful observation or from generations of hard-won luck and brutal failure. Either way, you're grateful for it now. You squint harder, drawing your eyebrows together until the line between sea and sky blurs. There, a faint, almost imperceptible shadow beneath the cloud base. Could be a mirage. Could be your mind playing tricks. But it could also be land. You shift your weight and the canoe responds instantly, a quiet partner in this ancient dance. The sun is higher now, warm against your skin, but a breeze keeps the worst of the heat at bay. You can feel the water moving under you, a long slow push that tells you you're still caught in the right current. Still watching the clouds, you reach for the paddle and dip it into the water. The surface breaks with a soft splash. You steer ever so slightly to port, adjusting your course based on nothing more than a gut feeling and the tilt of the clouds. A modern navigator might scoff at this. No sextant, no compass, no satellite beaming your location from space. Just a pair of eyes, a brain full of stories, and the twitch of a cloud. You tap the paddle against the side of the canoe, a small signal to yourself. Trust the signs. Another trick, whispered by the oldest sailors, plays at the edges of your memory. If the clouds start to thin or scatter, if they rise up and grow fluffy and uncertain, it means you've missed your mark. But if they stay low, stay thick, stay waiting, well, then you're on the right track. As if on cue, a seabird cuts across the sky, its wings flashing white in the sunlight. A naughty turn, you think, though it's too high up to be sure. You watch its flight pattern, not random, not chaotic. It moves with purpose, heading toward the clouds you've been watching. Polynesian navigators learn to trust birds almost as much as the stars. Birds don't waste energy. They don't fly aimlessly. If it's heading that way, it's going somewhere. Somewhere solid. You adjust course again, just a hair, and the canoe slides easily across the water. Beneath you, the sea churns and whispers secrets you're too wise to ignore. There's a fringe theory, not exactly popular in academic circles, that some navigators could smell islands. That somehow, the vegetation or the unique mix of land and sea sent out a signal detectable by trained senses. Most historians roll their eyes at this idea, but after days at sea, with nothing but salt and sky, you swear the air does smell different when land is near. You breathe deeply through your nose. Salt, yes, but also something richer. Earthier. Green. The clouds remain steady, their flat bottoms like a promise. You take a moment to appreciate the silence, not true silence, but the soft, living hum of the ocean. Waves slap gently against the hull, a rhythmic hush-hush-hush like a heartbeat. The wind flutters the sail, whispering against the woven fibers. Your own breathing slows, syncing with the pulse of the sea. You're not just a sailor out here, you're a reader of signs, a listener of whispers, a watcher of invisible trails. And tonight, if the clouds are kind, you'll find land before the stars come out to scold you for getting lost. The sun climbs higher, and you feel the heat starting to seep into the wood beneath you. Time to move again. You shift your weight, angle the paddle, and the canoe responds like an old friend. No fuss, no resistance. The clouds thicken just a little more, a nudge of encouragement. You smile and paddle harder, the muscles in your arms and back working smoothly, without strain. You're not lost. You're not guessing. You're following a map written in vapor and flight, a map only a few can read. And right now, it's leading you exactly where you need to go. You shade your eyes with one hand, peering up into the sky again. That naughty turn from earlier is back, only now it's brought friends. A small cluster of dark-winged birds crisscrosses the sky, moving in wide loops and tight darts. To most people, it would look chaotic, random scribbles on blue canvas. But to you, it's the start of a conversation. Polynesian sailors learn to read bird flight the way modern folks read traffic signs. Birds that fly low and in straight lines usually head to feeding grounds. Birds that spiral upward, catching invisible thermals, are looking to roost. And when birds begin fanning out from a central point late in the afternoon, it's a pretty good clue they're not far from land. You watch the turns closely. They're not aimlessly drifting, they're moving with the kind of determination that can only mean one thing: there's solid ground nearby. Maybe not close enough to see yet, but close enough for a bird to make a round trip without breaking a sweat. Historians still argue whether Polynesian navigators used formalized bird-watching systems or just picked up on patterns through endless trial and error. Either way, it worked, and you're proof of that as you shift your course to follow the bird's lead. A larger bird cuts across the flock's path, wings long and narrow. A frigate bird, unmistakable with its sleek silhouette and lazy, effortless gliding. You know the frigate birds well, they're coastal birds. They don't land on the water because they can't take off from it again. No, they need something solid under them. Rocks, trees, an island. You laugh softly to yourself. It's like the universe is dropping hints all over the place, and you're the only one paying attention. You adjust the sails slightly, just enough to catch a bit more wind, and the canoe leaps forward, eager. The birds wheel above you, their cries sharp and sudden, as if urging you to hurry. The sun's climbing higher now, the sky bleaching toward that harsh midday glare. Your skin prickles, but you barely notice. You're locked onto the birds, watching their flight paths, their little loops and sudden darts, the way they stretch toward that low, heavy horizon. You reach down, trailing your fingers in the water. The sea's skin is warmer here, a subtle change but noticeable if you know what to feel for. Another hint. Islands heat the water around them differently than open ocean does. It's not something a thermometer would catch. It's something your skin knows, the same way your tongue can tell the difference between fresh water and brine. There's an old belief, whispered by navigators who've spent too many nights talking to the stars, that birds and clouds are the language of the gods, guiding sailors who dare to listen. Fringe, maybe. But as the birds arrow forward, sure and fast, you can't help but feel there's something divine in it. You glance back at the sail, then forward again, adjusting your course slightly. Not much, just a nudge, a breath in a different direction. The canoe responds like it's alive, slicing through the water with a hiss. The birds begin to break off, peeling away one by one, heading down toward the horizon, toward the clouds that have been your quiet companions all morning. You smile, not wide but real. This is good. This is very good. You lean into the paddle, pulling a little harder, the canoe's hull humming beneath you. Every movement feels deliberate, earned. You're not fighting the ocean, you're dancing with it, following leads older than memory. The birds are thinning out now, some veering off to fish, others disappearing into the thickening cloud cover. You scan the waterline but still see nothing but shimmer and haze. No gleam of white sand, no dark slash of trees against the sky. Doesn't matter. You've got birds. You've got clouds. You've got the endless, quiet wisdom of your ancestors humming in your blood. And that's more than enough. You let the paddle rest across your knees for a moment, giving your arms a break, and focus your eyes on the water's skin. It glistens under the harsh midday sun, a mirror too bright to look at directly. But you're not looking for beauty. You're looking for signs, tiny shifts in texture, color, and movement that most would never notice. The water's surface tells stories, if you know how to listen. Near the horizon, you spot a subtle change. The water isn't uniformly rippling anymore. There are patches where it looks almost glassy, calmer, as if someone has ironed the waves flat. These slicks of water, known among Polynesian sailors as te lapa, sometimes indicate underwater structures, reefs, sandbanks, or the fringes of islands just waiting to break the surface. Historians still argue about the exact nature of te lapa. Some say it's light refracting off underwater ridges, others believe it's the way currents are disrupted by landmasses unseen below. A few French researchers claim Polynesians could sense these things instinctively, like migratory birds feeling magnetic fields. You steer toward the glassy patch without hesitation. You trust what the water is whispering. The canoe glides forward, slicing through the sea's soft chatter. You trail your fingers over the side again, feeling for temperature changes, for the slightest tug of a current shifting beneath you. Even the tiniest difference matters. There's a rhythm to this, a dance between sky, sea, and sailor. You read the clouds above, the birds in the air, and now, the water under your hull. No single clue is enough on its own, but together, they weave a pattern you can follow. You squint at the slick patch ahead. If you focus just right, you can see faint lines radiating outward from it, subtle currents pointing like arrows. Another trick passed down from navigator to navigator, the sea's wrinkles often point toward land. You shift your weight, adjusting course slightly to align with the faint current lines. The canoe responds as if it, too, can smell the island's nearness. Modern navigation is about precision, GPS coordinates down to the last decimal point, maps and charts and gadgets buzzing with information. But this is art. A feeling honed by generations who dared to believe the world could be read like a book if only you paid enough attention. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sun warm your face, listening to the sea's low hum. When you open them, the slick patch has grown larger, more distinct. Your heart picks up pace, but you force yourself to stay calm. Getting excited too soon could lead to mistakes. Pride and overconfidence have drowned more sailors than storms ever did. You dip the paddle in again, steering gently, keeping the canoe steady. The glassy water shifts around you, a sign that you're passing over a submerged reef or shallow. There's another clue, too. The waves here sound different. Less slap and more shush, like the ocean's exhaling against something just under the surface. It's a whisper that only patient ears can catch. Another naughty turn darts overhead, and you grin. They're still guiding you, silent escorts across the endless blue. You sit back slightly, loosening your grip on the paddle, letting the currents do some of the work. Trust is part of this, too, trusting the water, the birds, the clouds, and yourself. Your ancestors made voyages like this without modern tools, traveling thousands of miles across open ocean in vessels not much bigger than the one you're in now. They read the world not with their eyes alone, but with every sense sharpened to the edge of instinct. You run your hand over the canoe's side, feeling the rough-hewn wood, the fine craftsmanship of those who shaped it. They knew the sea. They respected it, feared it, and loved it, sometimes all at once. You glance at the horizon. Still no island, but the clues are piling up. Clouds heavy and low. Birds flying with purpose. The skin of the water telling you secrets. And you? You're right where you need to be. As you drift forward, your gaze lifts toward the east, where the last faint traces of stars once burned. Those ancient companions have now faded into daylight's wash, but you remember their positions as clearly as if they were tattooed behind your eyelids. Last night, the constellation of Tepunga, the Southern Cross, stood high above the canoe, a steady pointer to the southern seas. And off to the west, the bright cluster of Matariki, the Pleiades, winked its season's greeting. Polynesian navigators knew their stars the way modern city dwellers know neon signs and subway maps. To get lost meant you hadn't studied hard enough. You replay the stars' positions in your mind, feeling their echo even now in the movement of the boat. Historians still argue whether the Polynesians mapped star paths systematically or learned them in winding, song-filled lines passed from mouth to ear. Some even believe star navigation involved a kind of meditative trance, a tuning of mind and memory to the cosmos. You dip the paddle again, absent-mindedly tracing lazy circles in the water. Without stars to guide you in daylight, you rely on your memory, not just of constellations, but of their rising and setting points on different horizons, clues hidden in sunrise angles and the arch of clouds. A soft laugh escapes you, unbidden. Navigating by stars in the dark might actually be easier than this daylight guesswork. Above, the clouds remain loyal, heavy, low, and strangely still, as if waiting for you to catch up. The birds thin out a little, but not enough to worry you. Nadas and frigate birds are dependable that way, stubborn in their habits, much like sailors. The sea beneath the canoe murmurs, a low song of push and pull, and you adjust your grip on the paddle. The heat presses down now, a solid weight on your shoulders. Your skin is slick with salt and sweat, and the inside of your mouth feels dry, but you hold off drinking more water. Conserving is part of the deal. Just a little longer, you tell yourself. You narrow your eyes and scan the water again. Tiny ripples run counter to the wind's direction, a surface current crossing under the main flow. Not obvious unless you're looking for it. To an outsider, the water is just water. To you, it's a message written in shifting strokes. Land lies this way. Fringe theories sometimes claim that Polynesian navigators were gifted with a sixth sense, a sort of gut-level GPS. They call it wave piloting, where navigators feel the interference patterns of swells bouncing off unseen islands. Scientists scoff, but sitting here, feeling the canoe shiver under you with the crossplay of waves, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. You press your hand against the hull's side, palm flat. The pattern of the swell tells you more than a map ever could. Long, regular swells from the east, shorter chop from the northwest, a reflection wave, maybe. A sign that an island is bouncing the water back at you, unseen but stubbornly real. Another bird flashes past, so close you can see the individual feathers at the tips of its wings. It banks hard, angling toward the cloud bank again. The signs are stacking up like a gambler's winning hand. You pull the paddle through the water, guiding the canoe a few degrees to starboard, following the subtle shift in the waves. The canoe leans into the turn willingly, gliding with a hum that you can feel all the way in your teeth. Your arms ache, But it's a good ache, the ache of work that means something. Every push and pull, every squint and guess, every memory of the stars and study of the clouds, it's all part of this living conversation with the ocean. You glance once more at the clouds. Still low, still thick. You feel a grin tug at the corners of your mouth. You're not lost. Far from it. You're reading a map older than any book, a map woven from stars, clouds, birds, and waves, and it's leading you home. You lean back for a moment, letting the paddle rest against the rim of the canoe. Your hands, calloused and salt-crusted, throb faintly, but you welcome the sting. It's a reminder that you're working with the elements, not against them. The breeze picks up, carrying with it a new, faint aroma. You pause, inhaling slowly through your nose, sorting through the layers. Salt, yes. The ever-present tang of the ocean. But beneath it, something different, a faint, earthy sweetness, like wet leaves or flowers left too long in the sun. You smile to yourself. Islanders say you can smell land before you see it. Botanists might tell you it's the volatile organic compounds from dense vegetation hitching a ride on the wind. Historians still argue whether this was reliable navigation or sailor superstition, but standing here, feeling the canoe sway gently under you, you know better. You grab the paddle again and start to steer slightly toward the scent, trusting your nose as much as your eyes. The canoe responds eagerly, slicing through the water with practiced ease. The sun beats down relentlessly, and you reach for a gourd tied near your seat, taking a careful sip of water, just enough to wet your mouth, no more. Every drop counts when you're out here, where the only fresh water waits on distant, unseen shores. Above you, the sky is a hard, cloudless blue except for that persistent cluster hugging the horizon. The clouds haven't shifted much, their bottoms still unnaturally flat. You've seen this pattern before. It's not just an island, it's a large one, big enough to gather moisture, to influence weather patterns, to hold secrets in shelter. Your stomach grumbles, but you push the hunger aside. Focus. Always focus. You shift your attention downward again, scanning the water's texture. Another sign, the color is changing subtly, darkening from a brilliant turquoise to a richer, deeper blue. That's another whisper from the ocean, deeper waters ahead, perhaps a channel between reefs, maybe the lagoon mouth of an atoll. Fringe theories abound about Polynesian sailors and their uncanny ability to hear land. Some say the birds, the clouds, and the smells were just half of it. The real experts could sense the way sound carried over the water, how distant waves slapped against a shore or echoed off cliffs. The skeptics call it legend. You call it Tuesday. You sit still, closing your eyes, letting your ears fill with the soundscape. Waves crash softly, but beneath that is something more, a subtle change in pitch, a muted hush that could be surf breaking against a far-off reef. You shift your weight slightly and the canoe pivots, adjusting its nose toward the sound, toward the promise of land. Your fingers brush the side of the canoe again, feeling for the invisible language of the waves. They're changing too, you realize. The long, easy swells have broken into choppier rhythms. The kind of water that reefs create when they push back against the ocean's endless march. You open your eyes and check the clouds again, still there, still steady, but maybe, just maybe, a little thicker now, a little darker at their bases. The canoe rocks gently, the breeze wrapping around you like a warm hand. You allow yourself a moment of satisfaction. You're closing in. The birds begin to shift patterns overhead, some wheeling higher, some darting lower, their flight paths tightening. Soon they'll start dropping down toward their nests for the evening. If you watch closely, they'll tell you exactly where the land lies. You sit up straighter, shoulders aching, eyes sharp. The canoe creaks as you adjust your position, the wood protesting gently. A few more hours, maybe less, and you'll see the first shadowy smudge of land against the horizon. But for now, you trust your senses, the smell of earth on the breeze, the feel of the waves, the sound of distant surf. You're reading a language few understand anymore, a language older than maps, older than memory. And it's speaking to you loud and clear. You peer over the side of the canoe, squinting against the glare. Beneath you, the water shifts in color, not a dramatic change, but a deepening, a richer blue that hints at reefs or sandbanks hiding just under the surface. It's subtle, but subtlety is what saves you out here. You shift your weight and drag your fingers lightly through the water, feeling for the signs your eyes might miss. Cooler in places, warmer in others, like the ocean is exhaling different breaths. Your grandfather always said the sea had moods, not just the storms or calms you could see, but little hidden moods you could only feel. Some historians still argue whether Polynesian navigators truly felt their way across the sea or simply observed 1,000 tiny clues most people missed. You know better. You know the difference between knowledge and understanding. A ripple of excitement pricks along your skin as you notice it, a dark shadow sliding beneath the canoe. A school of fish, maybe, but it moves too slowly. More likely, you're passing over a submerged reef or the edge of a lagoon. It's the ocean's way of whispering, land is near. Above, the birds continue their watchful circling. Their patterns tighten, and a few dart down toward the horizon in short, purposeful flights. You've learned to read their habits like words on a page. Young birds will range far, fearless and foolish, but older ones stick close to home. And right now, the old birds are hugging the horizon. You lean on the paddle, making small corrections, steering toward the bird's favored direction. The canoe obeys without complaint, cutting a clean line through the soft chop. A fringe belief holds that Polynesian navigators could detect the way underwater reefs distorted the waves, creating a kind of shadow in the swell, a disturbance invisible to the eye but felt in the bones. Scientists shake their heads at the idea, but you wonder. After all, you're feeling something right now, a faint irregularity, a hitch in the otherwise steady pulse of the ocean. You tap the hull lightly with the paddle, another habit, a sailor's superstition. A silent thank you to the canoe, to the sea, to the island waiting ahead. The sun hangs heavy now, past its zenith, slanting westward, painting the sky in fierce white light. Sweat beads on your forehead and drips into your eyes, but you blink it away, refusing to lose focus. There's movement ahead, not in the water, but in the sky. A faint shimmer where the clouds meet the horizon. You frown, studying it. Not a bird, not a trick of the light. It could be the first glimpse of treetops, distorted by distance and heat. Or it could be nothing. Historians debate whether Polynesian navigators relied more on sight or intuition when landfall was near. Some claim they spotted islands days away, others insist it was a slow, careful process of interpreting signs, layering clue upon clue. You prefer to think it's both. The shimmer dances, then steadies, and your heart gives a hopeful thud. You paddle a little harder, ignoring the ache in your arms, the burn in your shoulders. The canoe hums beneath you, eager, sensing the change in your rhythm. Another shadow slides under the boat, darker this time, more definite. A reef, surely. You shift your gaze to the water around you. It's lighter now, greener. The kind of color that signals shallows, that hints at coral gardens and sandy bottoms. You glance upward again. The birds are fewer now, but more determined, diving in tight, purposeful spirals. If you trust them, and you do, you're close. Very close. You grip the paddle tighter, feeling the calluses rub against the wood. You can almost taste it now, the smell of wet earth, the feel of currents shifting, the sight of birds returning home. It's all converging. You are no longer just a sailor. You are a seeker, a reader of signs, a traveler on an invisible path carved by wind, water, and instinct. And the island is calling you home. The canoe rocks gently as you shift your weight again, adjusting to the changing rhythm of the sea. You feel it in your legs, your spine. The long, rolling swells that have carried you for hours are flattening out, interrupted by the unseen barrier beneath the surface. You glance down, and there it is. The water has turned from deep sapphire to a softer, milkier blue-green. Shallow waters. You're skimming the outer skirts of a reef, and the color tells you it's a healthy one, brimming with life just beneath your hull. Polynesian navigators learned to read these color changes the way others read road signs. Deep blue meant open ocean, lighter shades whispered of coral heads, sandbars, and lagoons. Historians still argue about how precise these readings were. Some claim they were nearly foolproof, others chalk it up to luck and practice. But luck doesn't get you across thousands of miles of open ocean, not over centuries of exploration. You adjust the sails slightly to catch more of the breeze, feeling it billow and tug gently. The canoe leans forward, eager again, like a dog catching the scent of home. Above, the clouds continue their steady vigil, and now you can see it, just barely, a darker smudge on the horizon beneath them. Land. It's not a clear outline yet, more like a shadow pressed against the sky, but your chest tightens all the same. You've been reading about it for hours. The smell, the birds, the feel of the waves, the color of the water. And now, finally, your eyes confirm what your senses have been whispering. You sit up straighter and take a moment to savor it. A fringe belief among old navigators says that the island speaks to you long before you see it, that it sings a kind of song only the attentive can hear. Scientists tend to file that under charming myth, but as you sit in your swaying canoe, you wonder if maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe you've been listening to that song all along without even realizing it. You run your palm along the canoe's worn edge, feeling the rough texture of the wood. It's a living thing, this boat, built from breadfruit trees and stitched together with knit rope, soaked in salt and stories. Generations before you sat in boats just like this, feeling the same shivers of recognition as they neared unknown lands. The canoe slices cleanly through the water, and you watch the surface shift and shimmer. The way the waves break now is different, shorter, more confused. Another sign that a reef lies just ahead. You steer carefully, drawing on years of practice to keep the boat from scraping against hidden coral heads. Above, a frigate bird swoops low, its forked tail carving a lazy arc through the air. It's heading straight for the smudge of land, and you can't help but grin. Confirmation from above. You ease the sail again, slowing the canoe's pace as you near the invisible threshold. You can almost imagine the land breathing, its exhale brushing against your face in the humid breeze. Another trick your grandfather taught you surfaces in your mind. Watch for the wave's reflection. When you get close to shore, especially if cliffs or steep beaches are involved, the waves bounce back. If you can read the pattern, the subtle interference where outgoing and incoming waves collide, you can steer safely without ever seeing the beach. You close your eyes, feeling the canoe sway under the confused chop. There it is, the hitch, the slight wrongness in the rhythm. It's not much, just a faint hesitation between swells, but it's enough. You smile again, salt cracking at the corners of your lips. You open your eyes, fixing them on the dark smear ahead. The island is growing clearer now. You can make out the faint outline of trees, the jagged silhouette of hills against the sky. The sea cradles you, and the birds spiral downward, leading you in. The ocean isn't a barrier for you. It's a bridge, a long, shifting, living path connecting you to a new world. And tonight, that world is finally coming into view. You squint against the light, wiping the sweat from your brow with the back of your hand. The dark smudge on the horizon has grown teeth, jagged peaks, uneven ridges, and thick clusters of trees. The island is no longer a rumor or a hopeful guess. It's real, solid, waiting. You can feel the difference now in the air itself. It's thicker, richer. The sharp salt tang of the open ocean is still there, but it's softened by the earthy breath of land, damp leaves, soil warmed by the sun, flowers that haven't learned to be shy. Historians still argue whether Polynesian navigators trusted their noses this much or whether scent was just a bonus, a little extra nudge after the clouds, birds, and currents had done the heavy lifting. You smile to yourself. They can argue all they want. You're the one out here, chasing the scent of land, and it hasn't failed you yet. The canoe rocks gently, responding to your every adjustment. You're in shallower waters now. You can tell by the color, the way it's shifted from the greenish blue of deep lagoon entrances to a lighter, almost glowing turquoise. The sea here seems to gleam with its own light, brighter and softer, a cushion for weary travelers. You steer toward a break in the reef, a narrow channel where the waves roll in more smoothly, undisturbed by coral. Navigators of old called these Ava, and finding them was an art. A badly chosen entry could mean splintered canoes and broken dreams. You study the water's surface carefully, watching for the telltale signs, a darker stripe where deeper water cuts through the reef, the way the waves flatten and lose their ferocity as they move inward. A safe passage. Fringe theorists sometimes suggest that Polynesian navigators used sound to find these channels, claiming the pitch of the waves' crash changes subtly over gaps in the reef. It sounds fanciful, but as you listen now, you swear you can hear it, a lower, more open rumble to your right, less angry, more inviting. You steer that way, paddle digging cleanly into the water, the canoe pivoting with a grace that feels like an extension of your own body. You can see the channel clearly now, framed by jagged coral heads on either side, their pale shapes just visible beneath the water's glittering skin. The birds are thinning out above you, many having already disappeared into the green mass of the island ahead. Home, for them. And soon, for you too. Your heart pounds, but not with fear. It's excitement, sharp and sweet. The thrill of arrival. The quiet, proud knowledge that you've made it, not by luck or guesswork but by reading the world the way your ancestors did. Clouds, birds, water, scent, sound, and a little bit of stubborn faith. You guide the canoe into the channel, the water calming instantly as you slip into the island's embrace. The change is almost startling, the rough chop of the open sea giving way to a gentle, lapping hush. The air is cooler here, shaded by the island's breath, and you can feel your muscles relax, the tension slipping away. You glance up at the sky, the clouds still hang heavy, protective, low over the island like a blessing. The canoe drifts forward, carried now more by current than by your hand. You let it, savoring the moment. The island looms closer, green and lush, the kind of green that seems to drink the sunlight and offer it back in deeper hues. You breathe in deeply, filling your lungs with the sense of earth and growing things. After so long with only salt and water, it's intoxicating. You reach down, trailing your fingers through the cool, shallow water, feeling the change beneath you. Sand now, not open ocean. The sea has softened, tamed by the island's presence. You smile, a real smile this time, wide and unguarded. Landfall isn't just a destination. It's a reward. A whispered affirmation that you've listened well, watched closely, trusted deeply. And in this moment, with the island before you and the sea behind, you understand why your ancestors kept sailing into the unknown, why they trusted clouds and birds over charts and compasses. Because sometimes, the best maps are the ones you can't hold in your hands. You dip the paddle once more, slow and deliberate, steering toward a sandy curve that peeks from behind a jut of rocks. The shore is still distant, but you can see the outline of palm fronds swaying lazily in the breeze and the dark green tangle of bushes crowding behind them, thick and alive. The water here changes again, shallower, clearer, so that you can now see the pale ripples of sandbars winding beneath your canoe like ghost trails. The sea is speaking more clearly now, its voice a hush rather than a roar, welcoming rather than warning. You slow the canoe's pace even more. No need to rush. Land isn't going anywhere. A few more birds dart overhead, their cries sharper now, more insistent. You know they're racing back to roost before the sun sinks into the water. Birds have no love for open ocean at night, their place is on solid ground. You chuckle to yourself. Smart birds. Historians still argue whether bird behavior was a primary navigational tool or just a confirmatory one, like checking your rearview mirror after making a turn. Some suggest Polynesians even kept birds aboard their canoes, releasing them at intervals to see which way they flew, but the truth is probably Messier, a blend of instinct, observation, and the kind of wisdom that doesn't fit neatly into textbooks. The canoe glides onward, the hull whispering against the water's surface. You watch the shoreline grow sharper, details knitting themselves together, the arch of a rocky outcrop, the scallop-edged fronds of coconut palms, the sparkle of wet sand catching the last fierce rays of the sun. You glance at the clouds again, still heavy, still loyal, draped protectively over the island's spine. You can almost imagine them as guardians, standing watch over this tiny dot of land lost in the vast blue. There's a smell now, too, one that cuts through the salt and sun-warmed wood, a rich, damp earthiness, thick with the promise of green things growing, of fires burning, of life unfolding just out of sight. You smile at the familiar tug in your chest, the call of land to a sailor who's spent too long adrift. You shift your gaze downward again, scanning for any last hazards. The sandbars ahead look smooth, the water glass clear, but there's always the risk of a rogue coral head lurking just below the surface. It's the quiet ones you have to watch out for, a truth that applies to sailing and life alike. The canoe drifts closer, and you brace your legs, ready to leap into the shallows when the time comes. But not yet. Not until the water is shallow enough that you could walk without swimming. Another old belief bubbles up from memory, one of those fringe notions your grandfather used to mutter about under his breath. He said the ocean resents haste. Rush, and it punishes you, respect its pace, and it grants you safe passage. You wait, patient, listening to the slight shift in the wind, the almost imperceptible softening of the waves as they roll toward the beach. Even the birds seem to pause, their cries fading into the hush of the approaching evening. You glance one last time at the sky. The sun is a molten smear just above the horizon, throwing long shadows across the water. Soon, twilight will drape its velvet over the world, softening the edges, dimming the details. But you will have already arrived. You will step ashore not as a stranger lost at sea, but as a wayfinder, a reader of invisible maps, a listener to whispers most have forgotten how to hear. And with the island before you, close enough now to touch, you know without a shred of doubt, you're exactly where you're meant to be. The canoe glides the final few meters, the hull whispering secrets to the sand just below. You can see the grains swirling in the shallow water now, a soft cloud of gold and cream stirred up by the bow's gentle push. You plant the paddle across your knees again, one hand resting lightly on it, and let the canoe drift. No need to force it. The sea knows when to let you go. Your toes ache to touch the sand, but you resist the urge to leap out too soon. Polynesian sailors learn patience not just from the ocean's slow-moving lessons but from bitter experience. Reefs are unforgiving, and a misstep now would be the most foolish of endings. Historians still argue about the exact methods these navigators used once they neared shore. Some insist on the use of sounding sticks, simple poles plunged into the water to test depth and texture. Others suggest a reliance on sheer observation, the color of the water, the pattern of the sand ripples, the change in the breeze's tone as it combed through trees ahead. Both, probably. And something more intangible too, a lifetime of accumulated knowing. You tilt your head, listening. The surf isn't crashing here, it's sighing. Gentle, friendly. Another good sign. The canoe bumps softly against the bottom, and you feel the sand resist, just a little. It's time. You rise slowly, legs stiff but steady. You brace one hand against the canoe's edge and step over, plunging knee-deep into warm, swirling water. Your feet sink into the fine sand, cool beneath the sun-warmed surface, and the sensation sends a jolt of familiarity through you, the solid certainty of land. You tug the canoe farther in, the hull grating lightly over the sand, until it rests safely beyond the pull of the tide. Above you, the first stars begin to emerge, cautious pinpricks in a sky still bruised with sunset colors. You glance up and spot a familiar cluster, Matariki, the Pleiades, peeking out in the eastern sky. You smile. They were your companions at sea, and now they welcome you home. There's an old fringe belief among some navigators that the first star you see upon landfall is your guardian for the journey ahead. Historians roll their eyes at that one, but standing here, wet and salty and bone-tired, you find comfort in the idea. The beach is quiet except for the soft, rhythmic whisper of waves and the occasional cry of a bird settling in for the night. The air smells rich now, full of life, green things, blooming things, the musk of earth still warm from the day's heat. You drag the canoe a little higher onto the shore and flip it carefully, resting it on its side. The familiar creak of wood and rope is a song you've heard all your life, and it fills the air with a kind of domestic music. You kneel briefly in the sand, pressing your palm flat against it. Solid, real, welcoming. After so many hours adrift, you savor the moment, the transition from water to land, from motion to stillness. You let your gaze sweep the shoreline. Dark shapes of trees crowd the beach, their shadows stretching long in the dying light. Somewhere beyond them, hidden for now, is the island's heart, the secret places where water pools and rock basins, where birds nest in the crooks of ancient trees, where trails wind like veins through the green. You'll find them. You always do. But not tonight. Tonight, you sit on the sand, cross-legged and easy, staring up at the widening scatter of stars. The night unfurls overhead like a slow exhale, deep and infinite. The same stars that guided you here will keep watch as you rest. The clouds that guarded the island have started to thin, revealing a sliver of moon low on the horizon, a silver promise that tomorrow will come. You lean back on your elbows, muscles loosening at last, and smile at the sky. You made it. No maps. No compass. Just birds and clouds, water and stars, and the quiet, stubborn faith that the world will guide you if you know how to listen. The sand still clings to your legs, gritty and damp, but you hardly notice. You lie back fully now, arms stretched above your head, letting the day's effort drain from your muscles. The island's silence presses in, not the empty silence of the open ocean, but a fuller kind, alive with the faint rustling of palm fronds and the distant chirr of insects starting their nightly chorus. You close your eyes, but your other senses stay alert, drinking it all in. The air is cooler here, thick with moisture and the scent of greenery. You can almost taste it, a sharpness that has nothing to do with salt, a freshness that hints at hidden streams and dew-damp leaves. It's a small, perfect reminder that you've traded the endless sameness of the sea for something rooted, something solid. Historians still argue whether Polynesian sailors navigated with actual maps, etched in memory or woven in their minds, or whether their journeys were more improvisational, guided by instinct and the signs of the natural world. Some French scholars even suggest a combination, mental maps passed through generations, updated with every voyage, not on paper but in story and psalm. You roll onto your side and watch the sky. The stars are out in full now, sharp and brilliant, far from the haze of cities or fires. You pick out Te Punga again, steady and bright, pointing southward. The same stars that once guided your ancestors across the Pacific now gleam down at you, unchanged, eternal. A small bird flutters in a nearby tree, rustling leaves. You smile. Even here, even now, the island is whispering, breathing around you. The surf murmurs steadily behind you, the waves brushing the shore like an old friend gently patting your back. The rhythm of it sinks into your bones, slow and comforting. You think back on the day's journey, the way the clouds had flattened over the horizon, the bird's purposeful flight, the ripples on the sea's skin. Every clue had stacked up like a trail of breadcrumbs leading you home. Each tiny sign, meaningless on its own, had woven together to form a path only the patient and the attentive could follow. There's a fringe story, not often told, but one you remember, about how the first great navigators didn't just learn the signs of the sea, they became them. They were said to dream in currents, think in bird calls, feel the pull of unseen islands in the marrow of their bones. Myth, probably. But lying here, listening to the pulse of the island through the sand, it doesn't feel so impossible. You let out a slow breath and watch it plume in the cooler air. Tomorrow, you'll explore the island. Find fresh water. Hunt for coconuts. Maybe see if anyone else has found this place. Islands like these have a way of seeming deserted until you stumble across old fire pits or the faint trail of footprints in the sand. But tonight is for rest. You dig your fingers into the cool, damp sand, grounding yourself. The clouds that had been your guides and your companions have mostly drifted away now, leaving the sky clean and clear. The moon hangs low, fat and luminous, casting a silver sheen over the beach and the tops of the waves. It's beautiful, but not in the way tourists think of beauty. It's not postcard pretty or polished. It's raw, real, untouched, the kind of beauty that doesn't care if you notice it or not. You roll onto your back again and tuck your hands behind your head, grinning up at the stars. You didn't need a map. You didn't need a compass or a guidebook or a GPS. You had the clouds. You had the birds. You had the ocean's skin and the whisper of the wind and the weight of ancient memory. And tonight, lying here on a beach the world has mostly forgotten, you have something else, too. You have proof, not for the historians or the skeptics or the fringe believers, but for yourself. Proof that you can find your way across the endless blue. Proof that you can listen to a world most have long since forgotten how to hear. Proof that you belong out here, adrift and anchored all at once. And with that thought cradling you, you close your eyes and let sleep finally take you. The first light of morning creeps across your closed eyelids, pulling you gently from sleep. You stretch in the sand, bones popping, muscles stiff from yesterday's journey but satisfied, like a job well done. The beach is still cool under you, shaded by the tall palms that line the shore. You sit up slowly, brushing sand from your skin, and squint toward the horizon. The ocean lies calm and endless, the surface smooth and silvered under the early light, a mirror stretching all the way to the sky. You stand and stretch again, feeling the pull in your shoulders, the sun warming your back. The canoe rests a few paces away, tilted on its side where you left it, its shape casting a long, slanted shadow across the sand. You wander down to the water's edge, where the surf paws gently at the shore. You let it wash over your feet, cool, insistent, familiar. You stand there for a moment, staring out at the vastness you cross. It looks no less endless by day than it did by night. Historians still argue how Polynesian navigators found their way back home once they left, whether they used a memory-based system of waypoints, mentally recording cloud patterns, bird flights, swell directions at different stages of the voyage. Some suggest they used an internal clock, a gut-level sense of time and distance. A few fringe theories even hint that the ocean speaks in ways we don't yet understand, through magnetic fields or subtle shifts in energy that only the trained can perceive. You know the truth lies somewhere in the middle, memory, instinct, observation, and a whole lot of trust. You kneel by the canoe and check it over. The wood is still sound, the lashings still tight. A few scratches from unseen coral, but nothing serious. She's carried you well. You pat the hull lightly, a sailor's thank you, then turn inland. The island is a tangle of green and gold in the morning light, with mist still clinging to the hollows and low points. Birds call from the treetops, their songs sharp and clear in the cool air. You start walking, feet sinking slightly into the damp sand. The ground grows firmer as you move away from the shore, the smell of salt giving way to the richer, headier sense of plants and damp earth. The first challenge, as always, is finding fresh water. You scan the landscape, looking for the signs your ancestors taught you, the way certain trees favor the edges of streams, the fluttering of birds who always know where the drinking pools are. You move carefully, slowly, listening. The forest edge is dense but not impenetrable. Vines dangle from trees heavy with broad, waxy leaves. You push through, following a faint animal trail winding deeper into the shade. It's cooler under the canopy, the sunlight breaking into shards that dance across your skin as you walk. You breathe deeply, savoring the damp, sweet air. And there it is, a break in the greenery, a small clearing where water bubbles up into a shallow pool, fringed by ferns and moss. You grin and kneel, scooping up a handful. It's cool, clean, and tastes of earth and stone, perfect. You drink deeply, feeling the fatigue of the journey wash away with every gulp. You splash water on your face and neck, the chill shocking you awake. Polynesian sailors often carried coconuts as both food and water storage, but islands like this, rich, green, alive, made resupply possible, made further voyages possible. You sit back on your heels and take in your surroundings. A fringed story surfaces in your mind, the one about wayfinders who could find hidden springs by lying flat on the ground and listening to the subtle sounds of underground water. Scientists scoff at the idea, but standing here, feeling the water's coolness, hearing the faint gurgle as it trickles over rocks, you wonder. The island hums softly around you, the rustle of leaves, the chatter of birds, the quiet murmur of hidden life. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it seep into you. You are not an intruder here. You are a traveler returned. A wanderer answering the island's invitation. Tomorrow, you'll start exploring more seriously. Look for fruit trees. Map the shoreline. Maybe even climb one of those hills for a better view. But today is for rest. For gratitude. For sitting quietly and listening to the world breathe. You stay by the water's edge a little longer, letting the coolness soak into your tired skin. The spring-fed pool is small but lively, its surface disturbed only by the occasional dip of a bird or the lazy drift of a leaf. It feels sacred somehow, not in the grand, thunderclap way of mountains or storms, but in the quiet, breathing way of things that have simply always been. You cup more water into your hands, sipping slowly now, savoring. Hydration isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. The early navigators knew that well. Fresh water was life, the thin line between reaching a new home and becoming another lost story swallowed by the sea. Historians still argue about how navigators selected settlement islands. Some say they chose by resources, water, shelter, fish. Others insist they followed old myths and prophecies, guided by dreams or omens. The French thinkers, of course, claim it was instinct, an unexplainable sense of rightness when they found the place where their bones could rest. You're not here to settle, but you understand the impulse. There's a stillness to the air, a gentleness that tells you this place has been waiting for you, patient and unbothered by the centuries that passed before your canoe scraped its shore. You stand and stretch, joints popping again, and make your way back toward the beach. The forest thins as you walk, sunlight splintering through gaps in the trees, warming your back. Your stomach growls, a sharp reminder that water alone won't keep you going. Food, then. You keep your eyes peeled for coconut palms, the ultimate traveler's pantry. High in fat, good for water storage, and, as your grandfather liked to joke, excellent for your hair. You spot a familiar silhouette near the tree tall, lean trunks crowned with feathery fronds. You quicken your pace. Coconuts aren't an easy prize, of course. They don't just drop politely into your hands. No, you have to earn them. You eye a tree and grin at the challenge. You find a fallen branch, test its weight, and begin the careful, methodical process of climbing, not fast, not flashy. Controlled. Safe. You inch up the trunk, muscles straining, toes digging into the rough bark for grip. The first cluster of coconuts hangs heavy and green, swaying gently in the breeze. You twist one free and ease back down, careful not to rush and lose your footing. When you finally touch the ground again, coconut in hand, you exhale slowly through a grin. A victory, however small, always tastes sweet. You crack the coconut against a rock, prying it open with fingers made strong by days of paddling. The juice is cool and sweet, washing away the last remnants of salt clinging to your tongue. You scrape out the flesh with a piece of shell, eating slowly, methodically. Fuel for the next stretch of the journey, whatever that turns out to be. Fringe stories claim that some Polynesian navigators could taste the health of an island, judging it by the flavor of its coconuts, the sweetness of its fruit, the behavior of its birds. Scientists frown at the idea, but you wonder. Everything here tastes right, balanced, alive. You sit back against the trunk of the tree, coconut shell cradled in your hands, and stare out at the horizon. The ocean glitters under the late morning sun, a vast sheet of molten silver stretching forever outward. Somewhere out there are more islands, more hidden springs, more sandy shores and clustered palms. Somewhere out there is the rest of the world. But here is enough for now. You think about the journey that brought you here. No compass, no map, no voice in your ear telling you where to turn. Just the clouds, the birds, the sea, and your own stubborn heart. You chuckle softly. If you tried explaining it, they'd call you lucky. They wouldn't understand the hours of studying the way clouds gather, the way swells shift, the way birds fan out and disappear. They wouldn't understand the way the ocean speaks, in ripples and reflections, in scents and breezes, in the hush of surf against unseen shores. And that's fine, because you understand. And sometimes, that's all that matters. You dust the sand from your legs and rise, the half-eaten coconut left at the base of the tree like a quiet offering. The sun has climbed higher now, thinning the morning haze and baking the beach in a bright, relentless light. You shade your eyes and squint down the shoreline. It stretches out in both directions, a lazy curve of white gold sand interrupted only by the occasional outcrop of rock or driftwood skeleton. The tide is gentle, lapping softly at the shore, whispering back and forth like a story it can't quite finish. You decide to walk. The sand is warm but not yet blistering under your bare feet. With each step, you sink slightly, the grains shifting and sighing. The rhythm is hypnotic, the crunch of your footfall, the hush of the waves, the distant calls of unseen birds hidden in the trees. Historians still debate how early Polynesian explorers managed once they made landfall. Did they scout systematically? Follow animal trails? Climb trees for bearings? Or was it something more instinctual, a pulse, a draw toward places that felt right? You follow the curve of the beach, eyes alert for more signs of life, not just birds and trees, but the subtler marks, footprints in the sand, smoke on the horizon, the dull gleam of a shell left not by nature but by human hands. Nothing yet. The beach here is untouched, pristine. If others have come, they've left no trace. You find a piece of driftwood, smooth, sun-bleached, curled like a question mark, and stoop to pick it up. Turning it over in your hands, you marvel at its texture, the way the sea has worn away its sharp edges, leaving it soft and worn and wise. There's an old fringe belief that driftwood carries stories, that each piece holds the memory of the lands and waters it has passed through. Scientists dismiss it as superstition, but the idea pleases you. You tuck the wood under your arm and move on. You crest a slight rise in the sand and pause. There, just ahead, a break in the trees, a faint trail winding inland. You hesitate, scanning the tree-line. No smoke, no voices, no other canoes pulled up on the sand. Just the sigh of the breeze through the palms. Still, trails don't make themselves. You glance back at the canoe, a reassuring speck against the wide beach, and then forward again. Curiosity wins. It always does. You step off the sand and into the shade of the trees. The trail is narrow, hemmed in by thick foliage, but clear enough to follow. You move carefully, listening to the new sounds, the creak of branches, the sharp calls of birds startled by your passage, the occasional rustle in the undergrowth. The air is cooler here, heavy with the smell of damp earth and crushed leaves. The ground is soft underfoot, a mixture of fallen fronds and dark, loamy soil. You walk slowly, carefully, pausing every few steps to listen. Historians argue, as they do, about whether Polynesians navigated inland using the same methods they used at sea, reading the signs, following the patterns of birds and trees, listening to the sounds of water and wind. You like to think they did. After all, what is land but an ocean of a different kind? The trail bends sharply, and you follow it, heart picking up speed. There's a pull now, a subtle sense that you're close to something, a clearing, a spring, maybe even signs of other travelers. You round the bend and stop. Ahead, the trees fall away into a broad, sunlit clearing. At its center stands a single, towering breadfruit tree, its wide branches heavy with green, knobby fruit. Around its base, the earth is churned and flattened, not natural, human. There's a faint depression where the grass has been worn down, a dark patch where fires may once have burned, the glint of a shard of shell half buried in the dirt. Your breath catches. Someone was here. Maybe still is. You step closer, moving slowly, respectfully. The clearing hums with silence, a living quiet that wraps around you. You crouch by the shell shard and lift it free, turning it over in your fingers. It's been shaped, worked smooth along one edge, sharpened into a crude knife or scraper. No accident of nature. You stand again, cradling the shell. The world feels very wide and very small all at once. You were not the first to find this place. And you won't be the last. You linger in the clearing, the shaped shell warm against your palm. It feels strange to hold something crafted by another hand, another traveler, another navigator who read the same signs, trusted the same invisible maps. The thought grounds you, ties you to a lineage older than memory. You slip the shell into a small pouch at your waist, a quiet acknowledgement that you'll carry their story with yours now. The breadfruit tree towers above, leaves rustling in the light breeze. A generous tree, your grandfather would have said, food, shade, wood. The early navigators knew how to read the land just as they read the sea, and a tree like this would have been a beacon, a promise of sustenance. Historians still argue how Polynesian explorers chose which islands to settle and which to pass by. Some claim it was strategic, size, fresh water, shelter. Others whisper that it was a matter of feeling, stepping ashore and knowing, deep in the bones, whether the island welcomed you or warned you away. Fringe theories suggest the island chose the people, not the other way around. You study the clearing. It doesn't feel abandoned, not truly. More like it's waiting, holding its breath. A place suspended between what was and what will be. You move carefully, not wanting to disturb the silence more than necessary. You circle the breadfruit tree, eyes scanning for more signs. The ground here is uneven, with patches of disturbed soil, the faint outline of a fire pit long cooled and forgotten. And there, just beyond the tree's broad roots, a stone tool, half buried in the dirt. You crouch and brush the earth away, revealing the sharp edge of an adze, chipped from volcanic rock. It fits in your hand perfectly, the grip worn smooth by years of use. You lift it reverently. This isn't just a tool, it's a testament. A marker of those who came before, who crossed oceans the way others crossed streets, who trusted clouds and stars and birds more than any compass. You tuck the adze into your pouch alongside the shell, feeling the weight of history settle against your hip. The island buzzes softly around you, insects, the rustle of lizards in the underbrush, the occasional sharp cry of a bird overhead. Life, pulsing just beneath the surface. You sit down at the base of the breadfruit tree, back against its sturdy trunk, and let the island's sounds wash over you. You're not in a hurry. You've already arrived. You close your eyes and think back to the journey, the early morning push from shore, the low-lying clouds, the birds' flight patterns, the shifting textures of the sea. Each sign layered on the last until the island rose from the horizon like a secret finally spoken aloud. Historians love their arguments, their debates over methods and motives. But here, sitting with your back against a living monument to survival and resilience, it all seems simple. You navigated not with maps or machines, but with trust, in the world, in the signs it offers, in the quiet, persistent wisdom handed down through generations. You think about the clouds again, how they flattened over the island, how they pointed the way when the stars disappeared and the sun grew too high to guide you. Some say it's coincidence. Others, pattern recognition. A few fringe thinkers whisper about a deeper connection between navigator and nature, something science can't measure. You don't need to name it. You only need to listen to it. The island shifts around you, the shadows lengthening as the sun dips lower. The breadfruit tree sways gently, its branches creaking, as if nodding in approval. You open your eyes and stand, brushing sand from your legs. There's more to explore, more secrets to uncover. But not all at once. For now, you turn and begin the slow walk back to the beach, the adze and shell resting against your side, silent companions. The trail winds before you, dappled with sunlight and shadow. You move through it easily, stepping where others have stepped before, your journey layered over theirs like footprints in the sand, erased and rewritten by every tide. When you break from the trees and the ocean comes into view again, stretching wide and gleaming under the late afternoon sun, you pause. The canoe waits where you left it, patient and steady. And beyond it, the sea, vast and unknowable, a living map written in currents and clouds and stars. You smile, small and sure. You'll sail again, when the time is right. Because out there, past the horizon, there are more islands, more songs, more signs waiting to be read. You tread slowly down the beach, your shadow stretching long and thin across the sand. The sun is beginning its descent now, low and molten, smearing the sky in strokes of gold and amber. Each step toward the canoe feels heavier, not with reluctance, but with the sweet, earned weight of a day fully lived. You reach the canoe and run your hand along its side. The wood is warm under your fingers, still smelling faintly of the ocean it conquered. You pat it lightly, a promise that you'll be back, that this is only a pause, not an end. You drop the adze and shell gently into the canoe's shallow hull and sit beside them, staring out across the endless water. The sea is calm now, the waves no more than slow, lazy sighs against the shore. You can almost hear them whispering stories of other voyages, other sailors, other islands cradled just over the edge of the horizon. Historians, in their ever-patient arguments, have tried to reconstruct the methods you used to find this island. They pore over oral histories, attempt to replicate wayfinding voyages in sleek, scientific craft, all the while missing the point. It's not just about reading signs. It's about becoming part of them, tuning your body to the pulse of the sea, your mind to the map in the sky, your heart to the pull of distant shores. There's a fringe theory you always liked, that the navigators of old weren't just travelers, they were interpreters of the ocean's moods, readers of a living, breathing text written in cloud, bird, and wave. You tilt your head, listening, not with your ears but with that other sense, the one no instrument can measure. The sea hums low and steady, and the wind carries the sharp, dry rustle of palm fronds from inland. The island itself seems to breathe, slow and patient, matching your heartbeat. You stretch out your legs, toes digging into the warm sand, and lean back on your elbows. The clouds gather again, thickening along the horizon where the sun melts into the sea. They're not angry clouds, not heavy with storm, but the kind that gather over islands, low, dense, telling their silent stories to anyone who still knows how to listen. You grin lazily. The same signs that led you here still dance all around you, visible to anyone who chooses to look. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the last warmth of the day brush against your skin. Behind your eyelids, memories flicker, the play of light on the water at dawn, the wheeling flight of nadas overhead, the glassy slick where deep currents met hidden reefs. You remember how you trusted those signs, not blindly, but fully. Trust honed by study, by failures, by the whispered lessons of those who sailed before you. The wind shifts, carrying with it a new scent, smoke, faint but unmistakable. Your eyes snap open, and you sit up straighter, scanning the beach, the trees, the sky. There, a thin column rising beyond the treetops, dark against the bruising sky. Someone is here. You feel no fear. Islands have always been crossroads, meeting points for travelers carried by the whims of sea and wind. You know better than to assume the worst. Still, your heart beats faster, a quiet drum against your ribs. Historians like to think of the Polynesian navigators as solitary adventurers, lone figures adrift in a vast, indifferent sea. But the truth, the real, beating heart of it, is that they were part of a web, a sprawling network of islands and people, of shared stories and shared stars. You dust the sand from your legs and stand, muscles stiff but ready. You glance once more at the ocean, at the horizon where the clouds still gather, low and steady, the ever-faithful markers of unseen land. Then you turn toward the smoke. The trail you walked earlier is easy enough to find, and you slip into the trees, moving quietly, stepping around the brittle leaves and fallen branches that would otherwise crackle underfoot. The smoke is closer now, the scent stronger, a mixture of burning wood and something richer, meat perhaps, or fish roasting on fire. You smile. Another traveler. Another reader of signs. Another heartbeat added to the living map of the ocean. And maybe, just maybe, another story waiting to unfold. The trail bends sharply, and you ease around the curve, moving lightly over the soft, leaf-strewn ground. The smoke is clearer now, curling lazily into the canopy, and you catch flashes of light, the flicker of fire through the trees. You slow, listening. Their voices, low and steady, speaking in a rhythm that feels as ancient as the waves. You can't make out the words yet, but the cadence is unmistakable, the careful, measured exchanges of those who know how to live close to the earth, close to the sea. You step forward, and the trees thin until you find yourself at the edge of another clearing, smaller than the one you found earlier. A fire burns at its center, ringed by stones. Around it, figures move, 3 of them, 2 sitting cross-legged near the flames, one standing with a spear balanced lightly across his shoulders. They see you almost at once. The one with the spear lifts his chin, studying you. His posture is easy, relaxed, but there's no mistaking the quiet watchfulness in his stance. You raise your hands slightly, palms open, the universal signal, I am not here to harm you. For a moment, no one moves. The fire crackles softly, and a seabird calls overhead, slicing the silence. Then, slowly, the man with the spear lowers it, setting one end against the ground. One of the seated figures gestures to a spot by the fire, a silent invitation. You step forward, keeping your movements calm and deliberate. As you approach, the smell of roasting fish grows stronger, mingling with the smoky air. Your stomach growls audibly, and one of the seated figures chuckles, a warm, low sound that breaks the last tension lingering in the clearing. You ease yourself down onto the sand, nodding in greeting. They nod back, and for a moment, that's all that passes between you. No rush. No need for questions or explanations. Just the simple, shared understanding of people who have traveled far. Historians still argue about how far Polynesian navigators traveled, whether they reached the farthest edges of the Pacific deliberately or by accident, whether their voyages were one-way trips of desperate hope or carefully plotted odysseys. Fringe theories suggest a network so vast and well-maintained that islands separated by thousands of miles remained connected through trade, marriage, and stories. Sitting here, the fire's heat brushing your skin, you feel closer to the truth than any textbook could ever bring you. The man with the spear crouches beside the fire and tears off a chunk of fish, handing it to you without ceremony. You accept it with a grateful nod and take a cautious bite. It's simple, just fish, roasted over an open flame, but it tastes better than anything you've eaten in days. The flesh is tender, the skin crisp and smoky. You chew slowly, savoring. The others watch you for a moment longer, then resume their quiet conversation, their words soft and rhythmic. You catch snippets, references to the stars, the wind, the fishing grounds just beyond the reef. You listen, not because you need to understand every word, but because the language itself is familiar in its patterns and cadences. It speaks of a life tied to the sea, of knowledge passed down through generations like heirlooms. One of them, a woman, you now realize, glances at you and says something, her tone curious but kind. You respond as best you can, using gestures and the few words you share. You tell them, in the simplest way possible, that you came from far across the water, guided by clouds, birds, and the pull of unseen islands. The woman smiles, a flash of teeth in the firelight. She taps her chest lightly and says a name, short, clipped, musical. Then she gestures to the others, naming them in turn. You offer your own name, speaking it carefully, and they repeat it back with only the slightest twist in pronunciation. It's enough. Names exchanged, trust seated. They pass you more fish, and you eat gratefully, the fire warming your skin, the island's heartbeat settling into your bones. You glance up at the sky. The stars are out in full now, thick and bright, the kind of sky you only see far from cities and their hungry lights. The constellations will slowly overhead, the same ones that guided you here. The same ones that have guided travelers for millennia. You lean back, propping yourself on your elbows, and watch the sparks from the fire drift upward, tiny stars themselves, swallowed by the night. The others follow your gaze, and for a while, you sit together in companionable silence, the fire crackling, the sea whispering beyond the trees, the stars turning slowly overhead. In this moment, you are not a stranger. You are part of the unbroken chain of voyagers who trusted the world to guide them, who read the clouds and the birds and the water the way others read books. You are a wayfinder. And the night, deep and vast and full of promise, stretches before you like an open road. The fire flickers softly, shadows dancing across the faces gathered around it. You sit among them, warmth settling deep into your bones, and for the first time in days, you feel completely grounded. The island no longer feels like a distant mystery but a place alive with stories and voices, with breath and heartbeat. You listen as the others speak in low tones, their words weaving a tapestry you only partially understand, but the music of their language is as familiar as the ocean's song. It's a language shaped by waves and wind, by the rhythm of paddles slicing through water and the flight of seabirds across the sky. You share stories too, or at least you try. You gesture to the canoe, the vast sea beyond, the clouds that guided you. You talk about the birds and the swells and the way the island called to you through scents and shadows. They nod and smile, understanding more than you realize. Storytelling, after all, is a kind of navigation too, mapping memories and hopes, fears and dreams across the human heart. Historians still debate whether Polynesian navigators' knowledge was more science or spirit, whether their voyages were driven by necessity, curiosity, or something deeper, a longing for connection, a desire to belong in a world too vast for any one person. You think it's all of those things. The night deepens, stars gleaming sharp and cold above, and the fire dwindles to embers. You lean back against a smooth stone, eyes tracing the constellations you know so well. The Southern Cross gleams like a beacon, steady and sure. Your thoughts drift to home, not the island beneath your feet, but the place where your journey began, where the first whispers of this adventure took root. You think of your ancestors, their voices carried on wind and wave, their wisdom etched into your very bones. You smile softly, a quiet promise to keep their stories alive. The others begin to settle, their voices dropping to murmurs, then silence. You sit alone with the night, the sea's distant murmur threading through the trees. You close your eyes, feeling the gentle pulse of the island beneath you, the rhythm of waves, wind, and stars aligning with your own heartbeat. The ocean's map has brought you here, to this place and moment, a traveler carried on science and stories older than memory. And as sleep finally takes you, you know the journey is never truly over. Because the world is vast, and the clouds are always gathering. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another wayfinder waits for their turn to follow the signs. You wake slowly with the first hints of dawn, the sky shifting from velvet black to soft shades of purple and pink. The night's quiet has wrapped itself around you like a warm blanket, and for a moment, you just lie there, letting the island's morning breath fill your lungs. The fire's ashes are cold now, scattered in gray, but the memories of the night linger, the crackling flames, the shared stories, the feeling of belonging to something far greater than yourself. You rise, brushing sand from your skin, and walk slowly toward the canoe. The sea is calm, the horizon a pale promise. The clouds have already begun to gather again, low and steady, waiting to guide the next journey. You run your hands over the canoe's worn wood, feeling the smooth curves and rough edges. It has carried you across vast, open waters, a vessel of wood, rope, and trust. Historians often say the Polynesian wayfinders were the greatest navigators the world has ever known, masters of a craft both scientific and spiritual, relying on knowledge lost to time and intuition passed down through generations. You think of the clouds, flat-bottomed and low, like a secret sign pointing the way. The birds circling overhead, their sharp cries slicing through the air. The shimmer of the water, the scent of land carried on the breeze. You step into the canoe, settling yourself comfortably, muscles remembering the feel of the paddle in your hands. There's no need for maps or compasses here. You have the sky, the sea, and the silent language of the world itself. You push off gently, the canoe sliding into the water with a soft sigh. The island begins to fade behind you, but the signs remain, clouds heavy with promise, birds wheeling in tight spirals, waves whispering their ancient secrets. You look forward, toward the endless blue, toward horizons still waiting to be found. And as the sun rises fully, painting the sky with gold and fire, you know this journey is only the beginning. Because out here, where clouds and birds and waves weave invisible maps, there is always another island to discover. Always another story to tell. And always, the promise of home. The sky softens as you drift slowly now, the golden hues of dawn giving way to gentle pastels. Your arms rest lightly on the canoe's rim, muscles finally easing after days of steady paddling and patient waiting. The ocean around you breathes in quiet waves, each one a lullaby whispered just for you. You close your eyes and listen, to the gentle sigh of the breeze through palm fronds, to the distant cry of seabirds settling in for the day, to the soft lapping of water against wood. The world feels both immense and intimately close, a vast, living tapestry woven from salt and sky. Remember how the clouds led you here, their low, flat bottoms like secret signposts in the endless blue? How the birds danced overhead, their flight paths a map no compass could replicate. How the sea's surface told stories in ripples and reflections, guiding you when the stars hid behind the sun. Each sense was a thread, woven together into a path as real as any marked on paper. And now, as you rest in this quiet moment between journeys, you feel the weight of those threads settle softly around your shoulders, not as a burden, but as a cloak of belonging. You are part of something ancient and ongoing, a chain of wayfinders who trusted not technology, but intuition and observation, who read the world's subtle language and followed where it led. Theirs were voyages of courage and faith, stories whispered on the wind and carried across the waves. Now, as the island sleeps beneath the gathering clouds, you close your eyes once more. The sea hums a gentle song, the birds are silent, and the world holds its breath in peace. You breathe deeply, letting the rhythm of water and wind become your own. Tomorrow will bring new steps, new discoveries, new stories. But tonight, there is only this, the soft embrace of the ocean, the hush of clouds, and the quiet certainty of home. Sleep now, traveler, and dream of clouds and birds and distant islands. The journey continues in your heart, always. End of script. Sweet dreams.